And now, the best 60-ish seconds of your week.
And as we in the Northeast suffer under the joys of the Tundra, the country at large looks at the presidential primaries that are coming up and the Iowa caucus, which was held this past week. And in a moment of braggadocio, I will say that I predicted the outcome to the number. I said Donald Trump would win just over 50%. When the announcer on CBS 21 pressed me a little bit, I said 51%. Turned out to be just about that, with Ron DeSantis edging out Nikki Haley for second place by a couple of points, not a substantial difference. And so the question of whether or not there were 2 tickets punched out of Iowa or 3, pardon me, is pretty well settled at this point. There were 3. How long those tickets are good for is really the question that remains. And in New Hampshire, Nikki Haley looks to be doing very well. There's even a poll out there that shows her now tied statistically with Donald Trump. But again, it looks to me like President Trump will prevail on Tuesday night in the first of the nation primary. And the question then will be by how much? If Haley's within 5 or 6 points, she's got some momentum going forward. But here's the thing. Although the national media will crow about these results just as they did about the Iowa results earlier this week, that's short-lived. And the next stop, absent Nevada, which we can talk about in a moment, is South Carolina, Nikki Haley's home state, where the current governor, both U.S. senators, a significant number of the General Assembly or state legislature there are supporting President Trump, and he holds a commanding lead in the polls of her home state. Whether or not that can change much if she does very well in New Hampshire is an open question. But if she doesn't do well in South Carolina, as Ricky Ricardo would say, she got a lot of splaining to do. And for DeSantis, you just don't see the path forward at this point. He's got a minimal amount of support in Nevada, which changed its formula from a primary state to a caucus state, largely to help Donald Trump's campaign, and it certainly will do that. So it looks to me like it's pretty well said and done, although Nikki Haley still may have a fighting chance. And as hard as it is to say on the basis of one caucus that the race is pretty well done, it's because of the massive leads that President Trump holds in the polling in state after state after state as we go down the line. And as I've said so many times through so many years, these Republican and Democratic primaries run on momentum. And Trump clearly has it and looks to have the ability to sustain it. Although, as I said a moment ago, Nikki Haley may interrupt things a little bit in New Hampshire. Joe Biden, on the other hand, is not going to be on the ballot in New Hampshire. Think about that. The first president in I don't know how many years to sit out the first in the nation primary. Why? Because the Democrats said it really isn't our first in the nation primary. Ours is now South Carolina, a tip of the hat to South Carolina, which pulled Joe Biden's chestnuts out of the fire 4 years ago, when he had done so dismally in Iowa and New Hampshire, and Congressman Clyburn and others in South Carolina resurrected his candidacy with a victory there and allowed him to go on to fill the presidency. And in more news from the Biden family, some more bad news for Hunter Biden this week, as evidence came forward that showed that the FBI had analyzed that white powder on the pouch that held that famous gun of his. They took it out of the safe a year or so ago, and guess what? It was cocaine. And so not only does that wreak havoc with the Hunter Biden legal strategy of saying, oh, I didn't have drug problems, et cetera, even though he said he had, it's just another layer of lies from the Biden family and Hunter Biden in particular this time around that is going to give him additional problems in trying to fight the various prosecutions that are coming his way. What's interesting to me, of course, is that Hunter Biden, in a family that doesn't think that law-abiding citizens ought to have guns, had one even though he had drugs with him at the same time. And on a sad note for the people of Pennsylvania, my home state, here in the frigid north, there will be no Pittsburgh-Philadelphia Super Bowl again this year. I've been jonesing for one for a long time because I just can imagine the trash talk that would go on across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. There would be families destroyed, marriages broken up, businesses wreaked havoc with, friendships upended, etc. for just a couple of weeks. But There will be none this year because both the Steelers and the Eagles went out in ignominious fashion this year. Really pretty bad. As an Eagles fan, I'm still sick to my stomach. But guess what? Pitchers and catchers report in less than 1 month. So for now, that is the best 60-ish seconds of your week.